So, let us start with the first chapter, titled While I Was Sleeping. The first chapter signals the radical democratization of capital and labor markets. Whereas capital once moved primarily between countries and multinational corporations, the flattening world implies that skilled individuals, software engineers, accountants, designers, can now directly participate in global flows of value. This shift challenges traditional trade theory and corporate structures, pushing towards a model where agility, education, and innovation outweigh mere resource endowments. Friedman's initial excitement is balanced by concern. While a flat world can unleash innovation and prosperity, it also intensifies competition, creates new insecurities, and multiplies systematic risk, including financial contagions and terrorism. Friedman cleverly builds on the metaphor coming to the phrase, "the world is flat," as an assertion that individuals and companies around the world now have unprecedented access to compete globally, regardless of their origin. This chapter mentioned three globalization across three themes. Globalization 1.0 from 1492 till 1800s, driven by countries through exploration and conquest. 2.0 from 1800 to 2000s, driven by companies seeking markets and labor. 3.0 2000 until present, driven by individuals empowered by technology. The next chapter is called The 10 Forces That Flatten the World, or in other words, Friedman's 10 forces that help accelerate globalization. The first force is the fall of Berlin Wall. It catalyzed the integration of new emerging markets into global capital flows, paving the way for massive cross-border investments and economic liberalization. Second is Netscape's IPO, democratized information and communication, enabling even small firms and individuals to participate in global trade and finance, marking the beginning of financial technology innovations and the radical lowering of information asymmetries, which is a critical point for efficient markets. Third, workflow software. Programs like SAP, Oracle, and standards like XML made complex supply chains and financial systems interoperable. This meant that corporations could manage multi-jurisdictional operations with real-time financial reporting, enhancing transparency and reducing operational risk. The fourth force, uploading or open sourcing. Open sourcing prefigures the rise of decentralized finance and peer-to-peer model as a challenger for traditional banking. Outsourcing has significant implications for labor markets and wage structures globally, contributing to the global labor arbitrage, a phenomenon where international financial analysts must now routinely factor into forecasts. The next one is offshoring, means there's a shift in the location of corporate profits and a balancing of global current accounts. This deeply altered global trade patterns, like for example, boosted China's foreign direct investment inflows and made corporate earnings increasingly sensitive to global labor and input cost fluctuations. Supply chain. Companies like Walmart perfected the art of global supply chain management, sourcing materials and products around the globe with incredible efficiency. This required sophisticated logistics, inventory, financing, and risk management concepts, particularly in trade and finance, and working capital management. Insourcing. Now, this blurs traditional boundaries between producer, distributor, and logistics provider, complicating financial analysis and valuation models of pure firm versus hybrid service product companies. Information is power in finance. Thus, informing dramatically levels the knowledge gap between Wall Street and Main Street investors, contributing to the rise of retail investing and more. And finally, the steroids or digital mobile, personal, and virtual technologies. Now, their impact on finance has been immense, enabling mobile banking, high-frequency trading, decentralized finance apps, and real-time global capital transfers, which effectively erasing traditional, temporal, and geographical barriers. Chapter 3: The Triple Convergence. This chapter crucially links the flattening of the world to systematic shifts in global finance. Increased competition for jobs across borders alters wage structures, inflation expectations, and consumption patterns globally. Financial institutions must now evaluate sovereign risk, demographic trends, and productivity at a far more granular level than ever before. The triple convergence hints at why global crises propagate so quickly and widely. The system is connected and all parts move together. One of the three convergences is the technological convergence. This technological convergence is foundational for global payment systems, blockchain, networks, and remote work investment analysis. Next, the business practice convergence. Organizations restructured to leverage global labor markets, forming horizontal networks rather than vertical hierarchies. Outsourcing, offshoring, and global project teams became standard business practices. Financial firms particularly adopt the complex derivatives, cross-border mergers, and shared service centers to capitalize on this new reality. And finally, the new players convergence. Billions of people from China, India, Eastern Europe, and Latin America, previously marginalized from global markets, suddenly entered the global labor and capital pool. This massive increase in available labor and consumers exerts downward pressure on wages in developed countries while also fueling enormous new markets for investment and growth.
Hi, I'm Cheryl, and I'll be covering chapters 4 to 8. So in chapter 4, it begins with a chapter called The Great Sorting Out. So in this chapter, Friedman discusses how globalization is forcing companies, communities, and individuals to redefine their identities and roles. So as barriers dissolves, traditional boundaries, whether national, professional, or cultural, are being blurred. So he compares this process to what Karl Marx described capitalism breaking down the old structures. So Friedman calls this transitional period the Great Sorting Out, which is the chapter. So this is where societies must decide what to hold on and what to let go of in order to adapt and survive. So the key takeaway in this is that globalization isn't just economic, it transforms social structures and personal identities too. Now this leads to chapter 5, America and Free Trade. So here, Friedman argues in favor of free trade, even though it causes economic dislocation for several workers. He explains that Ricardo's principle of comparative advantage still holds true and that America should not respond with protectionism. So instead, the country should invest in education and innovation to stay competitive. He emphasizes that the benefits of free trade, like overall economic growth and consumer choice, outweigh the short-term costs. So here, Friedman's message is clear. So adaptation, not isolation, is the way forward in society. Now this leads us to chapter 6, the untouchables. So Friedman introduces the concept of the untouchables as jobs that are safe from outsourcing or automation. And he identifies these in three groups. So the first one is workers with special or specialized skills like surgeons and artists. The second, localized service providers like electricians or nurses. And third, highly adaptable and creative people. So the message is to stay competitive, people need to move beyond being just average. And that the American dream shift from work hard to work smart and different. Now this leads to chapter 7, which is the right stuff. This chapter explores the mindset needed for success in a flat world, which is the title of the book. So Friedman emphasizes lifelong learning, curiosity, creativity, and passion. He even introduces a formula which is CQ, plus PQ, um, which is greater than IQ. So this means curiosity quotient plus passion quotient is more important than intelligence quotient. So in a world where knowledge is commodity, it's uniquely human traits like innovation and emotional intelligence that makes the difference. Now this leads to chapter 8, the quiet crisis. Finally, in this chapter, Friedman warns that America is facing a quiet crisis, and this is due to the declining investment in education, sciences, and infrastructure. So while other countries are building their capacity, the US is becoming complacent. So there are only fewer students are entering sciences and engineering, the STEM majors, and this could actually threaten America's future competitiveness. And we've seen this trend lately in other countries as well. We could take Indonesia as an example. And here Friedman draws the parallel with the post-Sputnik era. So it urged the national mobilization before it's too late. And we can take a lot of relevant case studies in today's world. So, in summary, chapters 4 to 8 of The World is Flat, it basically outlines both the promises and challenges of globalization, which is a relevant genre or concept throughout the book. They highlight how individuals, countries, and institutions must adapt in society. And this is through innovation, education, and passion in order to succeed in the rapidly changing world. So, thank you.
My name is Muhammad Hasan Adabi, and I will be covering chapter 9 up to chapter 13. So, the title of the chapter 9 is This is Not a Test. So, in these chapters, Friedman is so stressed that globalization is no longer a theory to a debate. It is a real force that demands immediate actions, particularly in educations, leaderships, and innovations. This is not a task. Leaderships must promote resilience. In this chapter, it says that it's a muscles and supportive system or a good fat, like a healthcare and lifelong learning. Parenting must evolve to raising children who are curious, adaptable, and equipped for a world where constant reinvention is necessary. Friedman is also warns that the futures won't wait for us and we don't invent it, someone else will. For example, Friedman discussed how Asian countries like Singapore and India is reform their education systems to produce a global talent, while United States risks a stagnation if they stay in the complements. The lessons about these chapters is that you need to act now, adapt fast, or risk being left behind. Let's moving on to the next chapter, which is chapter 10. The title is The Virgins of the Guadalupe. Using this ironic example of Mexicans importing their own Virgin of Guadalupe status from China, Friedman illustrates how global economic have shifted fundamentally. When you are in Mexico and your claim to fame is that you are lowest manufactured country and some of your people are importing statues for your own patron signed from China, you are living in a flat world. So in this term, actually Friedman want to say that globalization enable even religious cultures or symbols to be mass produced abroad, showing no sectors is immune from competitive pressures. Cultures must creatively embracing globalizations to thrive. Otherwise, you're also got a problem. So Friedman's highlight in this term is that how Mexicans, artists, and industry must innovate their craftsmanships or lose out, even in the local market. To cheaper than others is could be alternative. The lesson learned from this chapter is that you need to adapt on your local strengths to global realities or you will be kicked out. So the next chapter is chapter 11. The title is How Companies Code. So Companies in these chapters is that company that survive and thrive is a flat world are those that anticipate change, adapt to new realities, and innovate before competitors do. So there is a sentences that are very good in these chapters is that when the world is flat, whatever can be done will be done. The only questions is whether it will be done by you or to you. So as a businessman, we need to act swiftly or being risk overtaken. New rules demand relentless reinvention, faster product cycles, and constant hunger to disrupt their own models. As Friedman captures from the CEOs, is that just in the last couple of years, entrepreneurs had been able to do things they had never dreamed possible before. For example, UPS not only deliver packages but started running logistics and repairs for companies like Toshiba, showing how firms must reimagine their roles to stay competitive. So the lesson learned about this chapter is that everybody needs innovate before someone else innovate you out. And the last chapters is chapter 12, which is the title is Globalizations of Local. So global media and technology now allow local cultures not only to absorb outside influence but also to project themselves globally, protecting sharing their uniqueness. So globalization of the local is not a global which come and envelop us, it's local which goes global. Through satellite televisions, internet, and mobile connectivity, diaspora communities maintain strong ties to a tradition while engaging globally. Culture no longer emulates others to success, instead they amplify their own voices. As Friedman notes that it is the same soil but different trees will grow. He cites how Bollywood films or movie, Irish dance, and Japanese anime have used a global network to thrive internationally without losing their roots. So the lesson learned about this chapter is use global tools to amplify, not erase your local identity. Well, actually, there's just one more chapter that I forgot to mention, which is the chapter 13. So the chapter 13 is very interesting. The title is "If it's not happening, it's because you are not doing it." I'm very love about these chapters is because in this chapter we see that in a world where technology super empowers individual and a small group, anyone can drive change if they act with attention and creativity. So the internet today gives even the smallest group the ability to upload and globalize their activism. Friedman explained how social entrepreneurs and niche groups can now challenge a giant and reshape industry to online platforms. Empowerment tools are readily available, in fact, no matter of your actions and not the permissions. He closed subtly that if you are not making an impact, it's because you choose not to, not because the tools aren't there. For instance, he discussed how citizens group pressure Nike to improve labor practice worldwide, proving that activism can now go globally as easy as business can. So the lesson learned about these chapters that I'm very love to is that in the flat world, the only barrier left is your own effort. So that's all for my part, and I really love this book is because it teach me how to see the world differently, and actually we see that there are a lot of change in this world, especially in the technology, and we need to adapt on that. And I believe if our effort is as big as the technology grow, we can have very successful not just in career but also in the moral and education. Thank you.
Chapter 14. What happens when we all have dogs hearing? Have you ever felt like you're always online but not really there? In chapter 14, Thomas Friedman tells a story about a man in taxi in Paris. The man is glued to his phone, replying a message, checking emails, and completely missed the beauty of the city outside the window. Friedman calls this is continuous partial attention. It means we are always connected but never fully focused. This kind of digital distraction makes it hard for us to think deeply to be creative. Instead of meaningful conversation, we get short replies. Instead of presence, we get pressure. Friedman warns that if we don't learn or manage our digital life, we risk losing our ability to connect not just to others, but to ourselves. This leads us to bigger question. If technology connects us, why are so many people still left behind? Chapter 15. The Unflat World. In chapter 15, Friedman answered that question. He said that not everyone can enjoy the benefits of globalization. Many people are stuck in what he calls the unflat world. Some are too sick or battling disease like AIDS and malaria. Others are too disempowered, lacking basic needs like electricity, education, or clean water. Others are just trying to survive. Friedman shows us that even in connected world, inequality is real. And if we truly want a flat world where everyone can grow and compete, we need to invest in global health, education, and access. This leads us to next idea. Can economic connection help keep the world free? Chapter 16. The Dell Theory of Conflict Prevention. In chapter 16, Friedman introduced the Dell theory. He said that countries that are part of same global supply chain, meaning they make and sell product together, are less likely to go to war. Why? Because war would hurt both sides economically. Friedman doesn't say that trade solves everything, but it raises the cost of conflict and encourages countries to solve problems through talks, not tanks. It's a hopeful idea that the more connected we are, the more we protect peace. But this peace isn't guaranteed. It depends on which direction the world chooses to go. The last chapter is chapter 17. 11.9 versus 9.11. Friedman compares two big dates in history. 11.9, it's when the Berlin Wall fell. It symbolized hope, freedom, and more open world. For 9/11, when terrorists attacked the US, it brought fear, anger, and division. These two events show us two paths. First is one path leads to connection, trust, and opportunity. The other is leads to fear, hate, and destruction. Friedman say that the battle between these forces is still happening today. It's up to us to choose which future we want. Do we build walls or build bridges? So, our conclusion is what we can learn from all of this. The world is flat isn't just about business or the internet. It's a wake-up call. Friedman argue us as individuals, companies, and nations to adapt, connect, and care. We live in a world that's changing fast. To success, we need to be creative, flexible, and globally aware. Yes, there are still problems such as inequality, digital destruction, and also conflict and division. But there is also hope through education, ethical leadership, global cooperation, and responsible technology use, because in today's world, don't help build the future, someone else will, and you might not like the one they build. That's all from us. Thank you.